let's just get started. Thank you everyone for joining. We believe that we haven't heard from a lot of our parents and everyone who has supported Vision Youth for a very long time now, given the pandemic, and we have definitely put ourselves away from society, and our program hasn't started yet, at least for the outdoor portion. So, but regardless of that, we do want to connect back with all our parents and those who have supported us, just to just give a little insight and idea of what's going on around the world now, and what does it mean for our child, and what does it mean for our youths, and how are we here to support them. So I have here with me Joanne, Tang, and Benjamin Law, who are also part of the York Region School Board. I'll let them introduce themselves so that they can tell you a little bit about what they do on a day-to-day basis, and just sharing with you as well, what does it mean to learn remotely if this is to resume again in September, and this is where to continue again, and it's going to be a remote learning going forward, and what does it mean for us as parents, and how do we support our youths mentally as well from mental health perspective, given the fact that everyone's locked down and everyone's in at home, and the lower interaction with society. So I'll pass it on to Ben and Joanne. You guys can introduce yourself, and I'll fade in from here.
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Ben, and my partner here is Joanne. So we are both teachers at the York Region School Board, and so today we would just like to share some of our insights about online learning, or some people call that remote learning, and also Joanne will focus more on how parents can support your child's learning through the lens of mental health and different perspectives. Right now, so we have a presentation here, so I need to share the screen, and just give me 1 second, and I hope you can see my screen share. Okay, and so we're going to talk about this topic today based on the slide deck here, and I'm sure there will be question and answering time at the end or near the end. So hopefully we'll have a good interaction today, and even though this is a very different learning or teaching moment, everybody is saying that this is an unprecedented moment in education. It's true. The last big pandemic happened about 100 years ago, and no one actually experienced such a learning challenge at this time, where students couldn't go to school, and some students want to learn. Of course, some students don't want to learn, but they're all forced to go to remote learning and online learning. So, so my part will be focusing more on what is online learning, and just a little bit more understanding what we're actually facing, what teachers are actually facing, what students are actually facing, and how can parents also a little bit, how can parents support your child through this, I would say, challenging learning moment. Now, learning is very complicated, right? It's just more than I talk, you listen. And it is a challenging time for many people, including children and also adults. The Ministry of Education yesterday announced that in the coming September, there could be one of the 3 possibilities on how school will resume in September. So the first model will be, just regular in-class instructions, but with a lot of tightened protocols. So we hope that this is going to be the case, and we all hope that life will go back to normal. Well, but if you look at different places, when they open the school back, there will be other issues like kids will get infected, and there will be like a second wave, potentially when things just open up again. So hopefully life will go back to normal in September. So that's the first possible model. Business as usual, but with very tightened protocols. The second possible model when we head into September is that there's a continuation of remote learning with more standardization. So that means if the school is still closing in September, or if parents choose not to send their child to school, it seems like the ministry is giving parents a choice. If they're going forward to this model, you can choose sending your kids to school or not. Okay, and that's the second model. And the third possible model is the adapted delivery model. So this is something like a blended model with alternating online and in-class learning for students. In this case, the class size won't be greater than 15 students. So even though, yes, we only have like 4 or 5 more days of school, and you may think that online learning is coming to an end, well, there's the potential that, things with online learning will still going on. So hopefully through the discussion here, through different resources you have access, you're more prepared when September comes. So in this seminar, I will focus more on online remote learning, and with Tang, we'll focus more on staying healthy with the family through mental health lenses. Now, I hope you can see the full screen here. For some people, when learning is your interest, well, when learning is your interest, so think about a subject area that you like, or think about a school that you enjoy, right? So when you're learning, it's actually something you want to do, it's your interest. Learning at school, right? Learning at school is like the picture on the left. I think there's a pointer, yeah. Learning at school is like this. But what about online learning? It's like fishing, right? You go fishing with friends, and it's always more fun. You can talk about your fishing experience. You can show off your pictures in your phone, like what kind of fish you have caught in the past, and all these things. It's fun. Sometimes, for some people, online learning, even though it is your interest, it could be a boring experience. So just like this person sitting alone, he looks so lonely, and it could be an online learning contrast. What about learning is your need? Sometimes, when you talk to kids and when you talk to students, and for me, I talk to teenagers all the time, they don't really want to go to school, or they don't really want to take that subject, and they don't really want to do what parents tell them to do. For some people, when learning is your need, that means you have to. For some people, learning at school is like this. For some people, online learning is like this little girl. When learning is a need, just like eating is your need. So think about these two pictures. What are the differences? What do you think the reasons behind the differences? And don't get me wrong, for some people, online learning is a wonderful experience for them, right? Or work remotely is a wonderful experience for some people. But let's focus on learning. And some people fit in, some people don't. So let's focus on this now. What is actually online learning? Well, first and foremost, we need to understand that online and remote learning are not suitable for all students at all spectrums. As we learned differently, since school started to closing in March, some students and even teachers were not ready to move on to remote learning. So you may think that teachers are so ready. Honestly, no. It depends on the skill set of the teacher, depends on the experience of the teacher, and teaching remotely or teaching online wasn't in our teacher training at all. And for some teachers, they may be still struggling in using new technologies. So for some students, it is a challenge. For some adults and teachers, indeed, it could be a challenge as well. So when we talk about online, so we are talking about using different platforms. So maybe email, website, Google Meet, Google Classroom. In our region, we don't use Zoom. We use Google Meet and Moodle, Google Classroom. Some schools may use Discord, Meeting, Team, Microsoft Team, whatever different platforms. These are the platforms allow people to interact on cyberspace, allow people to interact online. So that's online. And it can come with different formats. So we have heard of synchronous and non-synchronous learning. So some teachers started synchronous learning right from the start, and some teachers will start trying some synchronous learning since a week or two before, and it's just a different format. So online learning depends on how the teacher plans how to deliver the learning. It could be synchronous or non-synchronous. Basically, synchronous is like what we're doing now. So you can see the people's face, or you can hide the camera, but still you're talking people like in real time. So that's the synchronous. And non-synchronous will be like people, teacher put the material online, and they will just work through those materials according to their own schedule. Okay, so those are different formats. And what is learning? So from my perspective as a teacher, learning means understanding new concepts and also connecting the dots, connecting various concepts together, including review previous concepts and exploring new ideas. So this is online and this is learning. So what if we put them together? In fact, we understand that learning is very different. It's a very complicated process. In my experience, when I teach high school students, some students learn so much better when they interact with teachers, when they interact with peer groups, and they can actually grow and learn so much more. And I know that some students are not really getting to that. And if you give them a textbook, if you give them online resources, some students actually working on their own pace, and they can actually work so much better. I teach high school physics, regular physics, and IB physics. And you may think that IB students are more high achieving and they're so adept to online learning model. In fact, it's not true. Right? Some IB students actually struggle with online learning. And that ties into some of their mental health aspects. So Ms. Tang will touch on that later on. So for example, I have an IB student, because of the online learning, that student just couldn't really adapt to it. And that student is very intelligent. That's why, the student is in the IB program. The student works so hard. But what I heard since April, the mid of April, from the guidance counselor, is that she's experienced some mental health issue now. She has to see a specialist, and she's on medication. Of course, there are many folds in the problem. Not that online learning is the cause for all the mental health issues. The online learning and the distant learning could trigger some of the mental health issues hidden in the child. So we have to realize that online learning is not suitable for everyone, right? And it fits some people, but not all people. And some factors are that, they're different from regular learning. So our direction given by the board is that when we move from in-school before March to remote learning after March, business is not as usual. In other words, we cannot expect all students will learn the same amount. We cannot expect the teaching will be in the same pace just like we were in school. This is an unrealistic expectation when we move on from on-site to online learning. So business is not as usual. So teachers will have to put in a different lens, look at the achievement of the students. And parents should also understand that it is the case. Does your child fit in the online learning model? Right? And I'll talk about some personality and characteristics of students who are more fit into the online learning in a moment. Okay. Think about the personality and work habits of your child. Do they have the self-discipline? Do they have good self-discipline? Are they going to bed very late and not waking up maybe until noon or later? Right? Can they self-guide in most part of the learning and seek help when they need? Do they get frustrated easily when technical problems arise? Like when we're doing a Zoom here, we experience some technical problems. So they will experience the technical problems as well. And the teachers will experience technical problems. Do they get frustrated easily, right, as a result of that? And these are the questions that we have to think and speak to our children, our child, at the beginning of their online learning experience, right? Hopefully, we can actually make more students to fit in the personality and the characteristics. That is, you need to have a good self-discipline. You need to have a more self-guided mindset, and you need to actually reach out when you need help. All these things are important for online learning. Does it work for everyone from JK to grade 12? Definitely not. So I feel bad, for parents with very young kids, let's say JK, SK, and grade 1, grade 2. They're so young. They need a lot of hand-holding. And if you just give them a YouTube video or some very well-built interactive website, whatever you find on the internet or the teacher found it, it is different from teaching them face-to-face. And they are experiencing the challenge, and so do us. Now, so when you concern about the learning progress during the online remote learning time, we have to keep a few things in mind, right? So you need to communicate with the teacher and the principal when needed. So speak to your child. For teenagers, I know it's the gray area. Do they really talk to you about school things? Well, not quite, but you can always speak to them and ask them and encourage them to speak to the teacher and get help when they need. Communicate with the guidance counselor. Of course, it is your right as a parent to speak to the teacher, speak to the guidance counselor, especially in high school, and to get some ideas of how your child is progressing so far. And for high school, for instance, you should know that the mark can only go up, not down, after the school closure started. So the mark as of March 15 should be the lowest point of the final mark of your child. And, well, it is what it is. It is the mandate by the ministry. And I think it is also making sense. Some students really have difficult times at home. In my experience, I've got students whose family member got infected by COVID-19. They have to look after the younger siblings at home. They also need to do different chores. And so, you know what? They'll have difficult time actually focus on learning. But not all students have this kind of experience. But we have to be inclusive as possible, such that some students who have a more challenging life during this time will also benefit from the online learning. speak to your child and listen, especially for teenagers. Listen to what they say about the learning. Okay, try not to criticize, try not to comment right away. Just listen first. Just listen first. And what can parents do? Joanne will talk about a lot more about their social, emotional needs in a second. Self-discipline is the key for online learning. So if your child has a good discipline, self-discipline habit, that's great. Help them to build schedule and build routine during the day. Routine is very important, even for younger or older kids. Once they have the routine, things start coming together. And do not uphold the same expectations as they were in school. And understand that there are limitations of distance learning and online learning, as we discussed. And, another thing that I would just like to suggest is that we need to understand school is important, but that's not everything. And people now talking about, the reflection at this pandemic time. What is more important in your life? Is it work? Is it family time? Is it, all other things? Well, you'll find that school is not that important, but there are many other things more important. However, school is important, but it's not everything that your child has. So you can, for younger kids, maybe you can help them explore the nature, learn different life skills, teach them how to cook and vacuum the floor, mow the lawn, whatever. Build relationship with your family members. It is a great time because during the pandemic time for the first March and April and May, we stuck in the same household. Now it's more loosened and people can get out, but it is a great time to build relationship and appreciate the time for quietness. All right, it is good, and you can also watch a movie with your child, play with them if they're younger, and do what a parent can do when you're not that busy. Because when we all stay at home, unless you need to go to work, like those frontline workers and people who have to work during this pandemic, otherwise you can actually try to build more things with your child. Okay, so maintain a mentally healthy environment is so important. So I think I would like to pass the time to Ms. Tang. She's going to focus more on maintaining a healthy, mentally healthy environment during this time.
Hi, thanks, Ben. Thank you so much for sharing with us some of your thoughts. I'm just going to share my screen so that we can see what we're talking about. Are you able? I'm not seeing my screen being shared.
Yep, your screen is shared.
Okay.
But you might need to maximize it. Yeah, you might have to do presentation mode.
Okay.
Yep, I see it. Yep,
okay.
Perfect.
And then I'm just trying to, sorry, is it unshared right now?
Nope, I can still see it, but it's not in presentation mode anymore.
Okay. Okay, so yeah, so I was asked to share about staying healthy as a family. So I just thought it would be good if I just gave a little bit of background about myself. So I've been with the Board of Education for about 20 years. When I first started out teaching, I was a secondary school visual arts and music teacher. And then for about 8 years, I was in the guidance department. And then more recently, I've been a teacher liaison for the Chinese community in the last couple of years. I have 3 kids at home. I have a 15-year-old, a 13-year-old, and a 9-year-old. And when I was a high school teacher, one of the things that I was always very proud about was how much students actually liked me. They would you know, when they were looking for a guidance counselor, they would come and search me out, and I had very good connection with the teenage students for many years, and that's something that I was always very proud of. And so when my kids became teenagers, I thought that would be the same thing, but it's actually completely the opposite. And everything that I thought was my strength ended up being more so a weakness. So what I'm sharing with you today is not just my experience of being a teacher, but also what it's like with a parent, like being a parent at home, because, you know, it's easy to teach people or to share with people, you know, experiences of, you know, what parents should do as a teacher. It's easy to share that, but to actually practice it as a parent is a totally different thing. So once again, that's kind of the framework by which I'm going to be sharing today. So I was asked to answer basically 3 questions today, or at least to try my best to do that. And the 3 questions are, you know, what behaviors do parents need to pay attention to in terms of their children's mental health, especially in this time of COVID? How will parents actually maintain sanity while they juggle between work and home and also interacting with their youth at home? And what are some suggested activities that families can actually do together? So I thought we could start by that first question: what behaviors should we as parents pay attention to with regards to our children's mental health, especially at this time when we are social distancing and we are at home a lot? So I thought I should begin by maybe clarifying and pointing out the differences between mental health versus mental illness, because a lot of times people use these terms interchangeably, but they're actually quite different. And sometimes, you know, unless we clarify it, it can cause a lot of confusion. So what exactly is mental health? Well, the World Health Organization, WHO, we've been hearing so much about them, especially in this time of COVID, states that mental health is a state of well-being in which an individual realizes his or her own abilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life and can work productively and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So that to me is a mouthful. You know, it's just a definition, means very little to me unless I break it down. So if I take that same quote and I break it down into more specifics, it's mental health is a state of well-being where an individual understands their own abilities. They can actually cope with the many different things that go on in life and the normal stresses. They can work productively, so they're actually producing things, they're creating things, and that they're able to function on a daily basis, and can also use these things to contribute to his or her community. Okay, mental health includes various aspects, including your emotions, your psychological well-being, and social well-being, so how you interact with others. And it affects how we think, how we feel, how we act, and it also determines how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. So mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood to adolescence and as well as adults. So you might think to yourself, okay, well, my teenager, like, how do I know how my teenager's mental health is doing? Because it's normal for teenagers to be moody. And how do we know when the mood swings are really just mood swings because they're teenagers, or how do we know if it's something more like mental illness? So that's what we need to consider. So what is mental illness? Sometimes mental illness is called mental health disorders, okay? And it refers to a wide range of different conditions, which include depression, anxiety, eating disorders, compulsive or addictive behaviors, okay? And they can, all these different conditions can affect the mood, thinking, and behavior. So what causes mental illness? Well, first of all, I think it's important to point out that like other illnesses, just say like diabetes or heart disease, physical kind of illnesses incorporate or encapsulate like or affect your physical, emotional, and psychological well-being. And that is no different for mental illness. It will affect you physically, emotionally, and psychologically. And they can be caused by the environment, things that are going around physically around us, okay? Or it could be related to genetics, or it could be a chemical imbalance. It could be a combination of any of these things. But one of the things I really wanted to point out specifically, especially in this presentation with the Vision Youth community, is that studies have shown that when compared to the general population, ELL students, meaning English language learners, so students who might be newcomers or students who speak English as a second language, or students who are from a culturally diverse background, meaning, you know, like you could be from, you might be from a culture that speaks different languages, studies have shown that they have a higher rate of psychological disorders. And mental health issues, especially in the Chinese, tend to be underreported. Okay, and there's many different reasons for these things. They're not just general sweeping comments, but usually there could be a lot of things that are in the system that are inequitable that causes these tendencies to take place. And also studies also have shown that mental health services are not as used as often by ethnic minority families. So these are things that I just wanted to point out. So knowing this, and knowing that these are things that we should consider, what are behaviors, going to that original question that we were asked to share, what behaviors do parents need to pay attention to with regards to their children's mental health, especially in this environment? Well, to be honest with you, it's really like, you know, there's many things that you could look out for, but the bottom line is changes in baseline behavior. So yeah, teenagers are going to be moody, right? And if you are, you notice that your child has been moody for over a while, then that's actually normal. But if their baseline behavior has changed, that is something that we should be taking note of. Physicians, doctors, look at different criteria to determine whether or not a person has a mental illness. But for teenagers, this can show up in different ways, like changes in their marks, a disinterest in friends, or an irritability that is kind of not normal. It's out of character for them. So changes can happen in sleep. It could happen in their energy levels, changes in their ability to concentrate or to complete a task, changes in their appetite, changes in how motivated they are. Maybe they have an increased feelings of guilt, or maybe they have thoughts of suicide. So these are some changes that you as a parent or guardian can be taking note of. And so if there is a change in baseline behavior in one or a bunch of these different areas, this is something that you should take note of. So if you suspect that your child needs extra support, and because of these changes that have happened, let's just say for approximately 2 weeks. So they've had a change in appetite, change in sleep patterns for 2 weeks. This is something that you should take note of. And don't be afraid to ask. As parents, especially Chinese parents, when we are concerned, sometimes we just kind of drown in our own worries and thoughts. But one thing that we really should be kind of more willing to do is to ask and to talk about it. Who could we talk to? Well, first of all, I think it would be really important to talk to your child. I know as parents, a lot of times we talk to everybody else about our worries and concerns before we actually talk to our child. But this is something that you might want to begin with. say, you know, I've noticed that there have been some changes, and you can and ask your child about that. And one of the things, like when I was actually preparing for this, I wanted to actually change it, instead of talk with your child, to maybe listen to your child. And so these are things that you also might want to consider. But when you talk to your child, it's very possible, like if you say, hey, I noticed there's been some changes, you know, with you, what's going on? They actually might deny it. And, you know, whenever my kids deny something, immediately I think to myself, why are you lying? And I kind of jump to those conclusions. But sometimes teenagers will deny something, not necessarily because they're intentionally lying, but number one, it could be that they're unaware of themselves because they're changing so quickly, or it could be something that, you know, they don't actually want to worry you about. But even if that conversation, you know, doesn't kind of bring the results that you're hoping for, it doesn't necessarily mean that you should be giving up on that. But always begin with your child and hear their voice. The other thing that you might want to consider doing is talking to your child's doctor about those concerns. And you can, you know, sometimes when we go to the doctor, we get all nervous, we forget what our questions are. So maybe you can jot down a bunch of things, write down a bunch of things that you've been noticing that have been changing with your child, and you can bring those thoughts to your doctor. Another thing that you know, that you can consider is to talk to a mental health expert or an organization. So this is something, you know, as a teacher, I would always recommend families to do. But as a parent, it's something that I wouldn't have necessarily considered for myself and for my kids in the past. But having been working with the Board of Education and learning about all the different organizations that are out there, some that are very culturally specific to understand what it is like in a Chinese family, is something that I actually have learned myself. So I'll give you an example. The Hong Kong Mental Health Association, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, provides a lot of different supports for Chinese families in Cantonese, Mandarin, or English. And not only do they provide clinical counseling to students, they also have a lot of programs that are preventative. So you don't even want to wait until your child, you know, might be kind of struggling with mental health, but there are things and programs and different opportunities where students can learn about social skills, or parents can learn about, you know, how they can interact with their kids, or how they can support with device usage, or online safety and things like that. These are things that, you know, they're available to anybody in the community and in first language. So don't be afraid to do that. As well, what I was saying earlier is consulting a mental health expert. I'm just speaking about Hong Kong. So their main head office is by Fairview Mall, but they've also recently, in the past year or so, have a location in Markham. And so here they have a youth clinician, so somebody who works with youth between the ages of 12 to 25. And they can, the individual there, the youth clinician, can meet on a regular basis with your child to kind of talk through some of the things that they might be struggling with. If your child is somebody who is not yet interested in having those conversations, they can also act as a consult. So you could, as a parent, call them, and they have a lot of experience with youth, and you can, free of charge, have this individual consultation time with them for them to advise you and perhaps give some suggestions on what you as a parent could do to support your child. So these are some things that you might want to consider. Some other supports that you could also consider are school supports. So always, right now, you know, school is about to end, but you can definitely call or email the guidance counselor to have those connections, especially when and if we go back to school in the fall, having a strong connection with the guidance counselor could be very useful. The Board of Education also has school social workers. What's also very new to our board are culturally specific social workers. So social workers who speak Cantonese, Mandarin, or English that will understand some of the cultural gaps. So it's not, so that they actually understand how parents and students might actually interact with each other, and they can also speak to you as well to see what supports they can offer you as a parent to care for your child. So what's also really important, especially at this time of COVID, is to pay attention to the mental health of your children, but also to pay attention to yourself, and think and reflect on where you might be, and to keep your own anxiety and fears in mind. So for example, it's really easy to watch the news and to talk to your spouse and your friends and your family members about your thoughts and your fears and your worries about this health crisis. But it might actually affect you in a way that brings you even more anxiety, or people around in your house might be listening to all of your worries, which actually, causes them to be more anxious and to be worried. So these are some things that you should also consider, is to pay attention to yourself and seek support if need be. The second question that we were asked to share about is to kind of address how parents can maintain their sanity between work and as well taking care of the children at home. So this is where, to be honest with you, in the last couple of months, it has been a struggle even for myself to be working full time. And then as well to be taking care of the kids. It used to be, I just pack their lunches or they pack their own lunches, and then it's only, I don't have to actually worry about it, but all of a sudden now we're constantly at home. There's so many people, there's so much noise, meals are being prepared like 3 times a day. It has been quite a struggle. So what are some things that parents can do to kind of juggle that and to balance that? So this is where, the next couple of things that I'm going to be sharing is based on both my experience as a teacher and also what I and our family has been struggling with and trying to find a balance between at home. Like Ben had mentioned earlier, that it's really important to create a routine and predictability. Just because you create a routine doesn't mean that you have to make school exactly how it was before, but whatever the routine is, it also has to be realistic. So for example, at the beginning of COVID, I expected all my children to be up by 8 o'clock in the morning. But over time, I realized that they went to bed so late that they wouldn't even wake up until noon or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, wow, my kids have officially become teenagers. And so I had to shift my expectation as well. And we need to adjust that. When people know what to expect, so when you as a parent know what to expect, and then your children know what to expect with regards to a routine and what the goals might be for the day, it actually helps to regulate people's worries, behaviors, and emotions. Because life is so unpredictable. Everything is so unpredictable outside of the walls of your home that when you create some sort of predictability, some sort of schedule within the home, it really makes a very big difference for people's behaviors and emotions. Another thing that you might really want to consider is to offer choice. When people are given choice, when students are given choice, they feel a sense of control in their own environment, which also helps their behavior, also helps their emotions and their worries and concern. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that the choice is, oh, I'm going to choose to play online games for the next 10 hours of the day. It's not like that, but maybe you can offer choice within a schedule. So I'll give you an example. This is something that we did. This is an actual picture of a schedule that I typed out and is hanging in our kitchen wall. But for example, if you look at the area where it says afternoon. So this is where the choice is. Here's the schedule. Notice in our family schedule, we don't even write down like times. Okay, it's just approximation of a routine. All right, so this whole morning section, nobody's even up in the morning anymore. But what I'm trying to show to you is in the afternoon, I need you as kids I need you to do 3 things. All right, 3 things. You need to do your studies, you need to practice your instrument, and you need to do something to contribute to the home. You can do it in whatever order you want to do it in. Whatever you do to contribute to the home, it could be a choice. But here you can see in my schedule here that there is choice, but there's also some sort of routine, some sort of predictability where they know what to expect. At the end, within the first 2 weeks, I also have to say that I was going really, really, it was very, very tough to take care of everybody. So I set a schedule where everybody loads the dishwasher or wipes the table or whatnot, and everyone takes turns. So it's set out, it's clear, and everybody knows what to expect. This whole family bonding time it's noted in the evening, after a couple of weeks, it did not happen every time. So I have to readjust myself. I had all these high expectations, and sometimes that happens, and you just have to stay flexible to adjust that. There's 8 suggestions that I have. This is the 3rd one. This is something my husband actually had to remind me of. I can sit down and I can work for a straight 6 hours without even getting up from my chair, and so I kind of expect that my family would do the same thing. But one thing that my husband reminded me of is that, students, after every hour, they move from class to class. And so they actually have that 5 to 10 minute break in between classes. Or if you have children who are in elementary school, the maximum number of minutes that they're actually in a class is 40 minutes. And then they have recess. So kind of setting that pace and that routine is also very important. So even as a parent, maybe I need to learn to take some breaks too, but that is something that is important. So then my kids would start taking breaks, but then an hour later, because I'm so busy with my own work, I forget that they've been on a break for now over an hour. So setting a timer might be also very important, that they set their own timer. I'm going to be taking a break for about 20 minutes or 15 minutes. And then when the timer goes off, it's like, okay, get back to the next thing. Another thing that you might want to consider doing is being active in any way possible. Once again, this can look very different from family to family. I see online that some families, they do workouts together. That's not going to happen in my family, to be honest with you. Even if I wish we could work out together, it's not going to happen. So you kind of think of ideas, and as long as everybody agrees to it, it is something that you can do together. So I'll give you an example of something that we have done. So we printed this out from the internet, and it was just a very small goal. We're going to work up to 50 push-ups. And you can see that people are actually checking off where they're at. And so we have this hung up in our kitchen, and you have to do your push-ups right before dinner. So you can't eat dinner until you do your push-ups. But really, in essence, it takes less than 2 minutes to do, let's just say 10 or 20 push-ups. And over time, we're heading towards day 24 already. And so together, as a family, we have done something, and it hasn't taken up very much time. And we have some sort of routine in there as well. So the 5th suggestion that I had is to create your own coffee shop experience. So since I was in university, one of the things that I discovered for myself was that I really I enjoy working and doing work at coffee shops. I enjoy working in coffee shops more than I do in libraries because there's a lot of kind of background noise that helps me actually focus on my work. So, sometimes when I get up in the morning, sometimes I don't feel like doing work. but I still need to get my work done. So, so what I have been doing is changing things around the house so that it can actually be more enjoyable for myself. So that work is like working in a coffee shop. Once again, even though I'm still within my home. So one of the best investments that I made was to actually buy this umbrella. And so now I can actually sit on my deck and I could be doing my work. So it actually, I'm doing work, I'm being very efficient, but I'm actually also enjoying myself. I feel as though there's some sort of control that I can control my environment. And so it's actually been making work more enjoyable. And as well with the teens inside the house, I have my quiet outside of the house. So it was the best $100 spent to really invest in myself. So that's why I would suggest that maybe you create your own experience or your own space at home to help regulate. One of the other things that I've been really teaching my kids about at home is the idea of delayed gratification. So kids who are usually ages 9 to 18, they're old enough to understand this principle, that working now and planning now, you can actually have benefits. So you don't wake up and you just jump online and, play online games right away. Talk to your kids about the importance of having a schedule and then rewarding yourself at a later time. So this is something that you might want to kind of practice if you already haven't done so with your kids at home. This is something that I struggle with sometimes because I always think about all the negative things of what is going on and all the different things that we have to do. But talking to our kids, talking to our loved ones, talking to yourself in positive ways over time really, really also makes a difference, because it's easy to get wrapped up in all the bad things that are going on in the world. It's a part of our culture. It's a part of the Chinese culture often to talk about our worries. Just think about when you go to a restaurant with your family. Everyone's always talking about, the latest break-in or the latest accident or the latest COVID, or like medical situation. Right now we're not in restaurants, but just think about our culture. Like those are things that we kind of tap into. So it's important to practice speaking positively. And finally, don't forget to praise your family when they do something well. Students need encouragement, and when they receive encouragement, it affects their mood. Remember to point out, when they're doing a good job or sticking to a schedule or some of the limits that you have set. And then, make sure you thank them for the help that they give. This is honestly something that I'm speaking about, as an educator, but it's also something I really do need to practice myself as a parent at home. Because, my parents were not necessarily very encouraging. And so I end up teaching my kids in the same way that I was taught. And sometimes I really need to change that around and to reconsider and be open to living and teaching differently. So final question, what are some suggested activities families can do together? If you go onto the internet, you'll be able to find so many different suggestions, but I do find that a lot of times the suggestions are ones that my family would never consider, or they would think it's ridiculous and just kind of walk out on me. So I'm just going to share a couple of things that our family has done or tried to do. And so this is like a real life practice. So it's not just a teacher telling you what to do, but it's something that I've actually really tried to work on at home. So this one's been easy. We've been binge watching shows or movies. So, we find some sort of like a rerun of a show, and every night at 10:30, we sit down together as a date to watch these shows. And everybody's always excited because it's like minimal effort. We have snacks. And we just enjoy something together every night. So that's been kind of an easy way to share stuff together. Another, like binge watching movies. Our family, especially at the beginning of COVID, we watched the Ip Man series. So all the Ip Man movies. And so my kids have been really into kung fu, and it's just something that we can share together and kind of laugh about, and it's, you know, it's specific to our culture as well. So that's been really exciting. Another thing that you could do is prepare meals together. So so early on, I think I got really frustrated of cooking so much. So we made our kids each kind of take a meal out of the day, and then they have to research what it is, give us the list of ingredients, and then once a week when we went to buy the groceries, we would buy their items. So I'm going to be honest with you. My kitchen was messier than ever before. It was very frustrating. It was actually more work than if I were to cook myself. But over time, they have all these memories and experiences. And so even my 15-year-old who used to hate cooking has now been, you know, taking the initiative to cook things for himself and whatnot. So that's been, it's been more work, but it's been very, very worthy of our time. This is an area that I really enjoy being productive. I do not enjoy board games. I always feel as though I don't have time for board games. But this is a way in which we actually, we tried it a couple of times, and our kids have really been enjoying it. And it could be a board game like Chinese checkers, like something that we might be more familiar with. But it gets the kids off of their devices, and it kind of forces us to be together when, we actually sometimes don't want to be together. So I'll give you an example. Even with this Monopoly game that we have here, this is like in our kitchen table. I didn't ever think or ever want to play Monopoly with my kids, but we really ended up doing it quite a few times. And sometimes it got so competitive that one of our Monopoly games took 2 days to complete. And it was on our kitchen table. We couldn't even eat on our kitchen table. We had to eat on our laps because everything was spread out. But these are the memories that we create together. So, tomorrow's Father's Day. And so for Father's Day, we've bought even more board games. Honestly, this is not how I would choose to spend my time. But in practicing it, it's actually been very, very fruitful for our family. I have 2 more quick suggestions. This is, TikTok is one of those things that have been exploding in social media. And it has a lot to do with dancing, singing, and creating videos. This is something our family has not done, but I see it online. I see parents and kids creating videos together. And it is something that I'm willing to explore because it's part of the kids' culture. I don't personally, I won't really have an interest in playing video games with my children. To be honest with you, I must be getting old or something, but the video games go by so fast, I get car sick when I'm watching it. But creating a video together, maybe, it's something that would enter into their culture, and it's something that I would consider. So finally, an activity that families can do together is to actually give back to others. So one of the things that our family has been doing is to actually drop off care packages to families that we know or families in need of extra, just to show that, we're thinking about them. I think it's been great because the streets are not very busy, so we're never in a traffic jam. But it's we've been dropping things off for people. It doesn't cost you very much money. On the right hand side, you see my daughter actually holding a balloon that was given to her. So this balloon, you can actually get it at the Dollar Tree for $1.75 or something like that. And somebody had dropped that off for her. She doesn't look very happy in the picture, but she was very happy to receive it. But how fun is that? For $1 something, you can brighten up somebody's day. So this is where, once again, an opportunity where my family has learned to think about others outside of our own 4 walls. So these are just, some suggested activities. if you're driving around, then you end up you have no choice, but you're spending time with each other in the car. And once again, these are just some of the things that you can do. Once again, there's lots of other ideas on the internet, and I'm sure, you know, there are many ideas that you have had that are really good as well. So that is really it for me, and I think we're just going to hand the time back over to Johnny.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joanne and Ben, for presenting and sharing with us your insight, not just on the education front, but also you know, some of the personal stories as well. And personally, the reason why I kind of asked you know, Ben and Joanne, which are met separately, and as a matter of fact, Ben was actually my teacher when I was in high school. It's interesting. It's interesting that you know, some of the perspective from others, and just given the fact that we're all locked in, it's important to reach out to society and to get feedbacks on how others are coping with the situation, and how everyone else is handling it. And back to the reason why I asked you know, Ben and Joanne to share this with us, is because some tragedy actually happened within work, and it has to do with mental illness. It has to do with you know, child not being able to cope with education and whatnot. So with that kind of gave me inspiration. Might not be the right word, but the idea to, you know, share this with my biggest connection to the youth generation is through Vision Youth, and that's why it was an honor to get, you know, to a very experienced teacher to talk about this situation and related to youth and related to you know, things that we are experiencing and facing with our family. I know we are a little over time, but Ben and Joanne, if you guys are okay, I'm going to open the floor for any questions. You know, I know these parents and teenagers might be on the Zoom meeting. They might have questions that they might want to ask. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can ask it to me or through the chat, and I can relay the question as well. Mm-hmm. But I can start off with one because I'm just curious, because Ben said the minimum marks won't drop, because obviously I'm not sure, Ben, are you still teaching grade 11 and 12 at the moment, or?
Yeah, I am. I'm doing grade 12, grade 11,
yeah.
12.
Yeah, so that would be a more sensitive grade to be in, knowing that these marks are going into university, and given the situation with the whole pandemic, it's great to know that the ministry took that into consideration, and they won't you know, grade any marks lower than what you're going in you know, before the pandemic. But what about other situations, like you know, yeah, let's say I walked in with an 80, but knowing that, you know, my projects are all usually at the end of the semester, and they're like, you know, they weigh so much already, right? So what if I needed 85 or whatever, but because of this whole situation, it actually impacted my marks? Is that going to be taken into consideration anyway, or how have you been responding to the grading scheme and whatnot?
Let's say you're having 80% before the pandemic starts. That will be the lowest. It will be the lowest point you will receive. So let's say you get some project assignments later on. What I do is that I will look at, I will put the number in the system, and then if it affects your mark positively, I'll keep it. If it doesn't affect your mark positively, I'll just take it out. And students know that too. So I think well, in my experience, for my 2 grade 11 classes, I would say generally students are still trying the best to get a higher mark. So some students never feel enough in terms of marks, so they just keep trying, and of course a small portion of students just kind of like give up and not doing anything and just maintain the passing mark, and they feel happy about it.
Cool. Well, there's actually a question that got sent to me. What about the marking scheme for like next school year? We know that this year is, lack of a better word, it's a write. That's not really a write off. We finished it, but it obviously we had to adjust to the marking scheme and whatnot because of a sudden change in the global pandemic. But what about the marking scheme for next school year? Is it going to be adjusted? You can't always, we can't always throw away bad marks and if this is going to be a continuous thing, right? So that's a question that was asked by a parent.
Marking scheme for next year. You know what? We don't know yet. We don't know yet, and we don't know which one of the three models we will have in September. So if we're going back to school normally, just like the old times, and I don't think the marking scheme will change significantly. However, if you have a blended model, online and on-site blend together, I'm sure they will make some adjustments. But you know what? We're still about 3 months before September, 2 to 3 months before September. I think the ministry will give us more direction, and so the board will also make up their mind and make sure that what is going to be happening in every school will be the same. So I'm speaking about for all schools in York Region Board. For Catholic school, for private school, we have no control over it. But at least for the school within York Region Public Board, the policy will be exactly the same across the board. So we'll just need to wait, and hopefully, and I believe, we will come up with something that makes sense and supportive, rather than, the other way. So I have confidence that whatever we do in September, it should be supportive and something that makes sense.
Okay. And one more question is, sorry, I have to read. How should parents prepare their kids during the summer break for online learning? Is waiting a good option? I'm assuming anything that or any learning opportunity during the summertime is what is being asked in terms of, is there any summer? Actually, I'm curious. Is summer school available at the moment, or is that canceled? I'm not sure for high school.
Yeah, there is summer school.
There's summer school now, right? Okay.
There's summer school, but it will be online. It will be online.
Okay. So how would?
Hey, you have anything to add?
Sorry. Yeah, I actually went online to check the summer school courses just a couple of days ago. A lot of them are actually full. But if you are a student with a York Region District School Board, you just go online and then you can find out if there are courses that are available for your grade that you can take. So that's definitely one thing that you consider. Yeah.
Is there anything specific that a parent should prepare the kids for? Like, I'm just gonna throw in some ideas, maybe. Like, would it make sense to see if let's say they register for a course, would the course have materials ahead of time, as opposed to just waiting for the actual class to happen, right? Because obviously everyone learns a little differently. Would online classes be a little because I'm taking an online class right now. Obviously not high school courses anymore, but they gave me materials ahead of time before the actual class happens. Would that be a recommended thing for parents to help out their kids on such like materials and pre-reading or whatnot?
I feel as though that, obviously that's a great idea. I was going to answer something, but then I was hesitant to answer because, it's my own ideas, but the likelihood of that actually happening, I think is pretty rare. And I don't know if Ben would have an opinion about that. I think because everything in the last couple of months have been so, changing and evolving by the week, I think even teachers are just trying to figure out what they're doing. So for them to be able to pass on materials for you, for next year, unless it's completely online. I don't know if, they would even actually have access to those items, let's just say like textbooks or whatnot. But like curriculum and things like that, if you actually go on the Ontario Ministry of Education website, you have access as parents to what overall the curriculum is. So for example, if you're studying you're trying to prepare for grade 10 history, you can actually look up and it will tell you what all the different topics are that are usually covered in a grade 10 history class. And so you can just read up on those things on your own. But once again, we put so much emphasis on school and on like the actual courses, but there are so many different ways in which students can learn that don't have to fit into the confines of a school. So, maybe if your child like to prepare can just pick, like, once again, going back to that whole choice thing, if they can pick like 1 or 2 things and become or try to become an expert or learn about those things in the summer, I think that would be like really, those things are amazing, they're not specific to curriculum, but they can actually help with making choices. It helps with building confidence and regulation and discipline. And those learning skills, to be honest with you, is often so much more important than factual knowledge. I'll give you an example is like randomly, I don't know how it came about, but one of my children decided he wanted his penmanship to be better. So he's going to take a Harry Potter book. He made me buy him like a notebook, and he's going to practice his handwriting by like writing out a certain number of chapters of a Harry Potter book. To me, it's like, as a parent, I might be like, oh, what a waste of time. But it's something that he chose, and it's a life skill that he can use more so in the future, or picking up an instrument, or, one of the things that the Board of Education is offering this year for the first time, and you can check online to see if it's still being offered, but they are offering a grade 9 Mandarin speaking class, maybe learning a new language. And if the Board of Education isn't offering that, maybe you can learn it another way. So there's many different choices that build in those learning skills, and I think that's a really great way to prepare for September.
Yeah, and I agree. So if anyone would like to take summer school, this time will be online, but I know that they have a special platform for online learning. And in fact, online learning is not new. We provide online course, I don't know since when, but prepare that the learning experience will be very different. So again, if there's no urgent need to take summer school, I would just say, you don't have to, and just spend time and, enjoy summer, and maybe, I agree with Joanne said, pick up a new instrument, learn a new language, and that would be more beneficial in the long run. And your teenager, your kids will have a more memorable summertime rather than just, studying, working on projects and doing things online, because the learning experience, again, will be very different. And in a regular summer school, you're talking about covering a week material in a day. So there's 20 days in summer school for a full course, and you cover the whole material, the whole curriculum. So 1 day is about 1 week. So on top of that, if you do this online, I can imagine the challenge be there, and it won't be the same. So it's individual choice, but if I was a student and if I really don't need to take summer school, I won't do it this time.
Okay. Does anyone have any other questions? Okay. Out of curiosity, well, first of all, let me just, if there's no more other questions, I just have a few comments to make. Joanne, I really love your personal touch to your slides and suggestions. Sorry, there is a question. Just give me 1 second. I'll finish off this comment and I'll ask that question. So there's I really enjoy all those suggestions, because those suggestions not only work with families with kids or with teenagers, but also, like, for instance, my family, we don't have a kid yet, but although we're expecting, but my wife and I, it's really hard for us to get into that routine. I really like that schedule that you have, so we might actually steal that idea. And one of the questions that came in was, do you have any insight? Wait, hold on. Do you have any insight for to a class used to be 20 students and resuming class only 15 students? Oh yeah, so if we were to resume class again, the classes might be smaller, or has that been mandated yet? What would that look like?
I think we don't know yet. We don't know yet. So we resume, again, there's one of the three possibilities. Let's say the first one, school will resume totally, but with very more tightened protocol. Does it mean that we'll have a smaller class size? I don't know. And where did all these students go? Like, I had 30 students in each of my class, and if we all spread out 2 meters, I can only probably put like 10 students in each classroom, and I don't know. And are they going to wear a mask? I don't know. So we'll have to wait until when we come closer to August, and I'm sure we'll have a much better understanding what that would look like. So right now, we're just using our imagination, and I don't want to just guess, and maybe we'll just need to wait for the time when they announce what's going to happen.
Okay. And I guess one very last question before we end the our discussion today. Are there any adjustments made, school board wise or at your particular schools, to ensure that teacher will try to discover if the student is having problems? So problems, learning ability or ability to learn efficiently, or mental health issues, in an early stage. Would there be any measures for teachers to spot those issues out earlier on during their interaction, maybe with the student? Or what kind of, or at least what kind of support model would be put in place, or would you imagine would be put in place for the education system?
Maybe Joanne can speak about it from the guidance perspective. But my understanding on this is that teachers also have a different sense on students' baseline behavior, and if anything goes wrong, we will reach out and get more people involved in terms of supporting the students' mental health. So we'll get the school administrators or some specialized people from the board, so we don't just teach, but we also look after their mental health being as well. Joanne, Ms. Tang?
So to be honest with you, once again, going back to that whole change of baseline behavior piece, that is one of the main indicators. I also had mentioned earlier is, sometimes it's hard to see when, things, when a student might be struggling, but that's why attendance and marks are important. So the marks piece is not getting the highest mark, but a lot of times, if the student used to be getting 80s and all of a sudden it's getting like 50s or 60s, that change is an indication of something. Or if the child is no longer attending online classes on a regular basis, like they're not signing in, they're not submitting their work, those are all kind of indications, but it's only one indication. So this is where the family really has to kind of step up in this. Because just because a student, and Ben was sharing earlier, just because a student is getting high marks, it doesn't mean that they're not struggling with mental health. In fact, sometimes those high marks mask all the struggle that they actually are having. So marks, attendance, that's just one thing. But this is where, you know, that interaction and that connection with your child is very important. And especially online, you're going to be at home, you know, and you're going to be like with them more than the teacher is actually going to be with them. So this is something that you have to consult and you have to be wary of.
Yeah, and we always encourage students to find trusted adult to speak about problems. Ideally, they'll talk to their parents. Ideally, but you know, if not, if that's not the case, then we may just need to encourage them to speak to a trusted adult from the school, maybe their favorite teacher, their uncle, or some other adults that they can trust, and make sure they speak to people when they have experienced any issue. And so we will all work together to provide a support. I think the worst scenario is that they feel something goes wrong and they don't talk to people, they don't want to get in trouble, or they have no one to talk to. That's the worst thing. So ask them to find someone they can talk to. Try not to share that with peers. I would say that, you know, for on one hand, you know, peer groups, let's say teenagers, they may not have a good understanding about mental health. They may give them good advices, but in many cases, they may not be able to give them advices in the right direction. So trusted adults from the school will be a good choice for anyone who suspects, you know, they're going through some issues.
Yeah, I mean, if I were to summarize it just in a way that we could remember it, you know, if there's one thing that you're going to remember from this whole presentation, is just about connection and communication. So making sure that your child is connected. If they're not connected with you, then make sure they're connected to a trusting adult or a trusting teacher or a trusting group of individuals that they can communicate with. And because, I mean, that's really at the end of the day, like some of the most kind of strongest kind of mental health issues and illnesses is, you know, happens when people feel like they do not belong or they feel disconnected. So as long as we continue to really make that a priority, that they're connected and that they're in communication, in positive communication with people, I think that's a really great start.
Yeah, and one last point, mental health can happen at all age. It's not just teenagers, not just adults. We've seen students starting like JKSK to experience pretty severe mental health issues. So it's not just teenagers, so it happens in all ages. So we just need to keep an eye on what they're doing. Is there any other questions?
I think that's the last question that came in. So thank you very much, everyone, for participating. I hope this is informative for everyone. But it does definitely serve as a great reminder on, you know, there is a world out there. This is just temporary, and just make sure that we're here to support each other. Stay safe, and we'll see each other in person again when this is all over.
Sure. Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye now.